Ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of Australia, and Her Excellency, Mrs. Linda Hurley, and our ambassadors for Rotary's Centenary in Australia. They are also ambassadors for the Indigenous Residential College. We welcome them in both capacities. It is with great pleasure I ask the Governor-General to address this centenary of Rotary in Australia luncheon.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for a very warm welcome for Linda and I to be here today. We're extremely delighted to be back with Sydney Rotary. As some of you will be aware, I was the patron and an honorary member of Sydney Rotary while I was Governor of New South Wales, so we're very much back in familiar turf. But I begin by acknowledging that this is the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I say that in all earnestness because the Gadigal people, the Eora Nation, have maintained and looked after this place for us for generation after generation, and we should be grateful for that and pay respects to elders past and present. Could I acknowledge all our VIPs today? They've been mentioned, but it is particularly important on this day of celebration that you are here with this group to acknowledge what Rotary has done. This lunch says a lot about the character of Rotary and Rotarians. We've had one video about the past, a mention about 100 years, but the focus is on what's next. The focus is what's the next big job we're going to take on. And I think that defines Rotary to a T. Yes, we've achieved, but achievement means nothing. It's what's next. So thank you for the vision, and I'll come back to that in a moment in relation to the UTS new school. When Linda and I were asked to serve as joint ambassadors for the centenary of Rotary, we had two reactions initially. First, having met many Rotarians and knowing their penchant for activity, we were pretty aware of how busy we would be kept. And secondly, as we thought about 100 years of Rotary, amazement at the number of outstanding men and women that must have been involved during that time and the scale that they have collectively contributed to what we have in our country today. But I keep coming back to a description of a typical Rotarian that was made or presented in 1921, which I discovered when I was preparing remarks for the launch of the centenary, and they're very accurate today. A typical Rotarian, they said in 1921, is a go-getter and a practical idealist. I like that last term, a practical idealist. It sums you up beautifully. And as I said at the launch, implied in these descriptions are the following: a positive attitude, a preparedness to think big and to not be afraid of tackling the big projects, and an ability to see a project through to the end. And those characteristics, I know, are plain to see in the 1,038 Rotary clubs in Australia and 226 in New Zealand, and in the actions of more than 32,000 plus members. And they're evident in what Rotary has achieved over the past 100 years. In that time, Rotary has contributed tens of thousands of volunteer hours and millions of dollars to promote health, peace and prosperity around the globe. It's been a visible example in towns and cities across Australia of selfless service and community mindedness. And it's achieved change on a global scale. To cite just one example with which you'll be familiar, that with partners, a 99.9% reduction in polio, with less than 200 cases of wild polio reported in 2019, compared with 350,000 a year in the late 1980s. If that was the only thing you did, you would be extremely proud. It is one of many achievements. The same characteristics are evident in your work today and your ambitions for the future. So today, around Australia and New Zealand, Rotarians are working to end infectious eye disease trachoma in Australia. As we've heard, collaborating with UNICEF to provide life-saving vaccines for 100,000 children across 9 Pacific nations, planting 1.2 million trees, raising money for drought-affected farmers and farm communities to stay viable, and continuing to exemplify the characteristics that we want our future generations to aspire to: a commitment to service, compassion for others, and a concern for the community. And your work, as I move down to where we are today in Sydney, is so important. As is mentioned, Linda and I are very proud joint patrons of the UTS Indigenous Residential College. Indeed, we had absolutely no hesitation when we were asked, because we understand the importance of this college. It will be groundbreaking in our country. This is a bold new model of Indigenous education, one designed and led by Indigenous leaders to reflect and affirm Indigenous identity, culture and academic excellence. The residential college will enable Indigenous Australians to see themselves at home at university and empower them to succeed at university and beyond. That is a goal that should be writ large in every university in our country, but it will start here. I understand Rotary is helping to secure $3 million of funding, and you're going to help develop a knowledge hub within the college. The hub will create a world-class learning space to share Indigenous knowledge and history. It has 5 key programs: a public accessible library and reading area where Indigenous literature can be accessed, a keeping place to securely store and protect repatriated cultural and ceremonial objects, the family research space to help those looking for information about their family heritage or to expand their knowledge, an elders office for residents to meet privately for pastoral care, and an academic workspace for tuition rooms for college members. It's an important step on the road to reconciliation in our country. And like most of Rotary's work, it is both visionary and practical for the present and for the future, an initiative that will change the course of individual lives, but of course impact us as a society. So congratulations both for coming together on this project. If I can offer a final observation about Rotarians, you don't do what you do for recognition or to be celebrated. You do it simply because you care. You care about your community, about the world around you, and about our future. Thank you for your work, thank you for your commitment, and thank you for the difference you have made and you will continue to make. Well done and congratulations on 100 years.
Her Excellency, Mrs. Hurley.
Rotary Australia, born in 1921. Australia and New Zealand, together they did come. International diplomacy, helping others was their aim. Service above self was the motto they did claim. A polio-free world, the job is not quite done. Helping children in Fiji, getting water clear to run. Aiding people in communities, self-sustaining is their aim. Giving aid in disasters, they are feeling the pain. Rotarians of action, kind and caring in our world. Thanks for all you've done, many thanks you all deserve.